Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and here with me is Omar Pozos, my co-host, husband, best friend,
dog
dad, all the things. How many titles can I give you?
I like this.
Co-worker, friends with benefits.
Oh my gosh. All right. This is kind of funny because I don't know if maybe you have been drinking a little too much today. That's where all this is.
It's 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. I would really hope not.
11:46. But anyways, let's jump in.
Yeah, so today I wanted to talk about a topic that we haven't actually covered on podcast episodes before, which, we're at, episode
149,
150, 150 or so episodes in, and this is a topic that I don't think we have broached yet, so I figured this would be a fun one to cover. So this was a topic that I really was thinking would be great to share in the podcast after reflecting on our trip to Mexico. So, for our listeners, we just spent 10 days in Mexico at an all-inclusive resort to celebrate our honeymoon / 1 year anniversary, kind of combine the delayed honeymoon, but
honeymoon-iversary?
Honeymoon-iversary.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll make it a thing. But we had a great time. It's first time in Cancun, and first time at all-inclusive resorts. A lot of firsts, and it was a really great time. But obviously, when you're at an all-inclusive resort, I feel like part of the game is to get your money's worth.
How much can you
right?
eat and drink?
Yeah, at least that's like where I think a lot of people's perspectives on those things go. And to be honest, I didn't really even think about that until I was there. And I was actually kind of like watching other people. There's a lot of good people watching in Mexico. And you're like, yeah, they're definitely seeing this as like a game of how much could I possibly eat and drink here to, quote unquote, get my money's worth out of it.
Well, I think we talked about it too, babe. And it was like, people are trying to kind of blow off steam.
Yeah.
They're leaving their jobs that are stressful and their lives and all this stuff. And they're like, I just want to go sit by a pool, drink from sunrise to sunset. And people did that because remember, there was one couple by the end of the afternoon, probably like 5-6 o'clock, the guy literally had to help his wife up from the beach chair because
she couldn't get up.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. People went all out.
Plastered. But I mean, that's what's going to happen at like an adults only all-inclusive resort. And I want to be clear, I'm not judging those people at all. Like you do,
I just like people watching.
Yeah, it does create a fun time on the people watching side of things. But with that, I was reflecting a little bit on kind of our own experience there in Mexico, at least for me personally, and thinking about how I'm actually really proud of how I handled the all you can drink alcohol situation, since that's the first time I've been in it was 8 full days there, 10 if we can include the travel days, but 8 full days of all you can drink. In the past, I would say not even like 3-4 years ago, that would have been a pretty tough situation for me because I definitely would have overconsumed. My body has always been extremely sensitive to alcohol. So when I do overconsume, I feel terrible afterwards. I always regret it, always get sick. And just like in that kind of situation, I think my mindset would have been around like, yeah, I want to drink as much as I can. And that just would have led to me drinking as much as I can until I didn't feel well. And I probably would not have enjoyed the trip. So I honestly was really proud looking back on it. I don't think I ever had more than 2 drinks in one day. Like I typically, a lot of days would order a third, but I'd maybe sip on it a little bit, then wouldn't end up drinking it.
I did. I had some pina coladas.
Yeah,
which were
you
amazing.
have a little bit higher tolerance though than I can.
I love the sweet drinks too. And the flowery drinks. I'm like, yeah, bring them over. I'll drink them.
Yeah, but that's where, so I figured it would be nice for us to reflect a little bit on, our kind of relationship with alcohol these days and tell our listeners a little bit on how to drink intuitively. So we've talked in the past on episodes, there's been multiple podcast episodes. I've done some with Alex, our head dietitian, head coach, on intuitive eating. So we've talked about intuitive eating. We've talked about what that is, how to do it. If you're new to this, go back and look for some of those episodes to get some more information there. But whether or not you have embarked down an intuitive eating path, that's something we always take our clients to at the end of their journey with us to make sure that they can maintain their results for life without ever having to worry about nutrition. You want to be able to just truly have that intuition on how to maintain your results, maintain a healthy body, and feel happy in your body without stressing about those things. But it's rarely talked about in an alcohol sense. And I by rarely, I mean like there's just in general in our industry, I don't think intuitive drinking is talked about nearly enough. And that is something that we do talk about with our clients, but I figured it would be helpful to talk about this a little bit here.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's dive in.
Yeah. So the reality is that intuitive drinking is really very similar to intuitive eating. It's very similar to how you eat. So what I really like to break this down into is when you are in a situation where you are drinking alcohol, whether you're at like an all-inclusive resort like us and you're in the pool and everybody's ordering drinks at the pool bar and you're like, oh,
I like your little dance.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's ordering drinks by
I'm
the pool.
like feeling myself back in the pool in Mexico, and it's bringing back the good feels. But now you're in this situation where you're like, all right, it's noon, let's get that first drink going. Or maybe you're just at like a holiday party and it's a bottomless or what is that called, open bar, not bottomless. I'm thinking like
bar.
Bottomless mimosas. Different story for
it's
another
a bottomless
day there.
Party at the bar.
No, open bar, or maybe you're at a wedding, or maybe you're just like going out to a bar or a restaurant, whatever it is. There's alcohol being served and you're kind of in that situation where you're like, all right, my health and fitness goals are important to me. I recognize that alcohol is not necessarily the best thing to support those goals. But I also know that it's not all or nothing. I know that I can have drinks and still hit my targets, still meet my goals. Like all of our clients, I can get incredible results and drink alcohol along the way, but I need to find that balance and I need to figure out what is the right amount of alcohol for my body. So in order to get there, I encourage you to ask yourself 3 questions before you even actually take a sip of that first drink, or maybe even before you order that first drink. And so those 3 questions, the first one is, why am I drinking this? Or why am I not drinking this? Maybe you chose not to drink, but asking yourself that question, why am I drinking this? Get clear on what that answer is. There's no wrong answers. You don't have to share it with anybody, but it's just for you to get curious about like what actually is driving me to want to drink this right now. Maybe it's like I want to take the edge off. Maybe it's I want to feel like I'm part of the group here.
Connect.
Yeah,
with
maybe
people. That's a big one.
Maybe it's because I'm on a vacation, and for me, I associate drinking with vacation, and I want to marry the two together. Like for me, I just like putting those 2 things together into one. Like there can be endless reasons, and there's no right or wrong reasons, but it is for you and only you to answer that question. And the answer to that question is never, I don't know. You do know. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of prying, a little bit of like digging a little bit deeper. But I really encourage you, ask yourself that question first. Why am I drinking this? And get clear on that. The second question you're going to ask yourself is, how will this make me feel? So this one is probably my favorite of the questions. I love to come back to this one because like I shared earlier, I am the type of person that like I've always been this way. I do get pretty sick from drinking pretty quickly. I feel the effects pretty easily. Like I'm usually fine if I have 1 drink, but if I'm repeatedly over the course of time having, 1 drink every day of the weekend, even things like that, like I don't feel my best come that week. Like Omar's kind of like laughing over here.
Well, no, I'm laughing because for those of you that obviously don't know Vanessa personally, or have had a chance to, have a couple of drinks with her, at least at the times that I have had that opportunity, I know when Vanessa is starting to feel a little tipsy, when she starts getting like all lovey-dovey with me, like, hey, like, I just love you so much. I'm like, all right, you need a water. Because I'm like, yeah, sure, I like that you love me, but, she's not usually like that.
I'm very affectionate.
I wasn't going to say affectionate. I was going to say like PDA, right? Like public display of affections. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, you need to chill out
if we're
for
like
a second.
in public and I'm like starting to show a lot of PDA, I'm probably, that drink's hitting me. Yeah. The tequila's going straight to my head.
Exactly.
Yeah, but no, truly ask yourself, like, how will this make me feel? Both in the moment and later that day, that night, and the next day, like, or maybe a few days later, like really getting curious about that. And again, it's not to like, there's no right or wrong answers to the question. It's not to shame yourself of like, oh, if I drink this, I'm going to feel bad. It's like truly about bringing awareness to, okay, why am I drinking this? Already covered that in question number 1. Now we're bringing awareness to how will I actually feel from this choice of drinking? And this is a really important question, regardless of whether you have like a high tolerance or a low tolerance like me. It's important to just build awareness around this drink specifically. How's it going to make you feel? Because if it's your first drink and you have a higher tolerance, you don't really notice the effects of drinking as much. Like it just doesn't really affect you as much. The answer on how this will make you feel might just be like, it might make me feel a little bit like tipsy, not a whole lot of too much, but it's just going to like, I'm going to feel a little bit more relaxed and just enjoying this moment. And it's like, okay, cool. You brought awareness to how it's going to make you feel. For somebody else, maybe that same person, if it's their 5th drink and they're asking themselves, how will this make me feel? They might realize like, you know what, this is kind of my cutoff point where I'm like, after 4, that's when I start to feel bad. For me personally, that happens after like, definitely after
2,
for sure after 2. But
well, I think the what you can add at that point is like, how is this going to make me feel tomorrow?
Exactly.
And just kind of thinking about like, do I really need this right now just to be able to connect, or like, is a sparkling water with I can't speak, a wedge of like lime going to do the same effect for me, kind of thing.
Exactly. So really getting curious on like how you're actually going to feel from drinking that, so that you're not just like quickly taking the action of drinking it and then finding yourself having drank it and been like, oh, that was a bad choice. Should not have had that one. Now I'm feeling nauseous, or now I'm feeling like drunk instead of tipsy, and I don't want to feel drunk. Well, maybe you want to feel drunk, but for me, I'm like, I don't ever want to like reach that point of actually being drunk. I just want to get the tipsy PDA on Omar,
Yep.
So that's question number 2. How will this make me feel? And that was a big one for me in Mexico, because I think that's what consistently brought me back to not over consuming, was because I would, when have the first drink, typically like, how will this make me feel? It's going to make me feel relaxed. It's going to make me feel, like just looser, more just in the moment and just enjoying myself. And like, okay, I want that. Like I'm accepting that feeling, because that's actually what I'm seeking right now. And I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Now, when it would come to like drink number 3, and typically I did order a 3rd drink, but I'd ask myself, how will this make me feel? And I'd be like, with where I'm feeling right now and kind of like where I'm at with this, I kind of don't really know if I like how this is potentially going to make me feel right now or tomorrow, especially with it being a longer trip. I want to feel good through the whole trip. So I'm going to make myself aware of how each drink makes me feel, so that I don't reach that point of overconsumption.
Yeah. And the cool thing is you're at an all-inclusive resort, or whatever you guys decide to do. So you don't necessarily have to drink the drink. You don't have to finish it, right? You're like, you know what?
Yeah.
I had a sip and it was delicious, but I really don't want it. Then leave it. You can get another one.
That's actually an interesting kind of perspective too. That's something we talked about while we were at on the trip, is that in general, like all inclusives, you can look at it as like, oh my gosh, this like competition, I have to eat and drink as much as I can. Or you can look at it as like, wow, this is a really cool opportunity for me to practice intuitive eating and intuitive drinking, because I don't have to justify things of like, I've already, I ordered this and I don't really like it, but like I paid for it, so I'm going to drink it. Or even with food, you could order like a bunch of things on the menu and just taste test different things, but not be like, oh, I'm going to order my one thing and like finish my whole plate and feel gross, even though I didn't really fully enjoy it. You can like actually pick and choose and find the things you really enjoy. But that's a tangent, not what we're talking about here on this episode. So again, reflecting here, the first question you want to ask yourself, why am I drinking this? The second question you want to ask yourself, how will this make me feel? And then the third question that you want to ask yourself, and this one is very, very important, do I like my reasons for drinking this? So in those first 2 questions, you're really bringing awareness. You're bringing awareness to like the reason that you're choosing to have that drink. You're bringing awareness to how that drink is going to make you feel. And now you're asking yourself, okay, I've brought awareness to what's pushing me to do this. I've brought awareness to what's potentially pulling me to do this, of like what's the feeling I'm seeking, or potentially a feeling I don't want to seek. And then now you're asking yourself, like, do I like these reasons that I'm choosing to drink and the outcomes that potentially drinking is going to put me into? That is a key question. This is one that people miss out on a lot, and to where they tend to not even take ownership over what's happening, is because they aren't actually recognizing that like everything you do is a choice. You choosing to have that last drink that maybe put you over the edge, that's a choice. You choosing to not have a drink, that's a choice. You choosing to not finish your drink is a choice. And you get every single sip, every single order, every single one of them is an opportunity for you to choose differently. And this is where the intuition comes in, of you really tuning in to like, what do I actually want here? And what is actually going to serve me here?
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of sitting back, and I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, do I ask myself these questions? Do I go through this process every time I'm going out to have a drink? No. But what I have started to really internalize and, like you said, kind of focus and be more intentional about is, like, how do I want to feel tomorrow about it? And a lot of times, part of the reason why I chose to have a few drinks is because I wanted to feel like I fit in. But now I've kind of to figure out, or I've come to find out that a glass of sparkling water with lime does the same effect for me. So honestly, for me, I'm like, I'm a more of a craving or a sweet guy, and I love like desserts and all that stuff. So like even for Thanksgiving, I chose not to drink that day, and it just came very natural. I'm like, I know I'm going to save some room for a slice of pie and some of the French silk pie that your mom makes. So I'm like, all right, I choose not to drink, not because, I don't want to, but because I'd rather have the pie and, not feel like absolute crap the next day. But what this really does is it just kind of gives you that, I don't know, 2-3 minute time to sit with your own thoughts and be like, hey, why am I doing this? Why am I going to do this? And it just helps you reflect. And if you still want to have 4 or 5 drinks and you want to feel crappy tomorrow, then that's okay. Go ahead and do that. But at least you kind of made the intention of making that decision. And it wasn't I'm just going to do it because everybody else is doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Because this really could be also called How to Drink Intentionally.
Yeah.
Like it's really just about bringing intention to everything that you're doing here with, food, with alcohol, with all of it, and recognizing of like I said, everything is your choice, and you need to understand what is leading you to make those choices, because if you're not liking the outcome of those choices, sometimes you have to backtrack to not just like, I need to change the behavior, but maybe bring awareness to what's causing you to take that behavior. And like Omar pointed out, sometimes when we just build awareness around like, for Omar, it's a drive to want to fit in, and he's recognizing of like, there's another way I can get that same feeling without taking that action that I don't necessarily always want to be taking.
Yeah. Or a lot of times I'm like, these people are hanging out with me because I've already fit in, or they've already liked me. So like, I don't have to do anything further for me to get them to like me. And, kind of going back to what we've shared in the past too is, sometimes you just have to be open with people and be like, hey, I really need you to support me and help me through this. I don't want you to think that like, I don't want to drink. My goals right now are helping me to do this. And it makes a world of difference.
Yeah. Yep. So, before you start to drink that drink, or before you order your next drink, whatever that looks like, you want to ask yourself those 3 questions. Why am I drinking this? How will this make me feel? And do I like my reasons for choosing to drink this? But then while you're drinking, so once you've made the choice to drink that drink, I would encourage yourself to continue to ask yourself one more question. And that is this enjoyable and satisfying to me? This is a key question when we're talking about in intuitive drinking, intuitive eating, all these things. It's really tuning into how you feel while you are drinking the drink. Because you may find that maybe this happened to me a couple times where like I would see, you love the frozen drinks, and like I'd be like, oh my God, that frozen drink looks amazing. So I would order one because I'm like, I do really want one. But then I would start to drink it and I'd be like, this drink really isn't like it looked better than it actually is tasting to me. Yeah. And I also am like noticing I don't like, maybe it's not like sitting super well on my stomach. And so I'm like, this just really isn't that enjoyable. This isn't really that satisfying. I'm not going to finish this. And that's where I would find myself not finishing that drink.
Yeah. And I think to your point, Ness, especially like all inclusive, like the alcohol, the drinks, some of them are good. Some of them are just okay. Mm-hmm. So again, you don't have to pay for it because you've already paid for it anyways. So at this point, like, how many times did we go back and be like, you know what? I don't like this margarita. Literally took a sip and I was like, I'm not drinking this. It's just not enjoyable to me. And that honestly has given me probably the biggest freedom, because even now at a restaurant, like if I go to order a drink and it's just okay and I don't love it and it's not going to help me feel great. Of course, yeah, it sucks that it's $8-9, but I'm like, you know what? I don't want it. I'm good. I'd rather just sip on my water. And then when I do find the drink that I really, really like, then I can have that 1 drink or 2 drinks and be like, okay, that was worth it. And I intentionally chose to drink that because it really, I love the taste and it made me feel really good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then one last note here too. So obviously we're talking specifically about drinking intuitively, but the principles of eating intuitively. So it's going to be a little bit harder. Like, I just want to bring awareness to the fact that like, it's going to be harder to eat intuitively after you've been drinking, whether you've been drinking intuitively or not. When we drink, our inhibitions are lowered, and you're probably going to find that the intuitive drinking becomes harder after each drink, but also typically we find ourselves like our appetite increases after drinking alcohol. You're probably gonna have more cravings for different types of things, and you're not gonna feel as in touch with your intuition when it comes to making food choices there. So I just want to bring awareness to that you're probably not going to be perfect at honoring your fullness cues or really making the best nutrient dense fueling food choices there. And that's okay. It's just something that you have to acknowledge. Like that's just the way it is. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, that if you are choosing to drink intuitively, you may not eat intuitively as well after that. I know that of course that happens to us. Like when we're at the resort, or if we were started to drink before we even ate lunch, we probably weren't making as good of a eating choice at lunchtime. And it's just, you have to acknowledge that that is probably going to happen. And again, you're just building awareness around how your choices impact other choices and whether or not you like those outcomes. But I also want to say, you will absolutely, when you're put in these kinds of situations where now you've been drinking and now food is put in front of you, you will 150% make better eating choices if you are not coming out of a restrictive diet. So if you are like following these restrictive diets, then you start to drink, you're probably going to end up in this place of like essentially almost binge eating. Yeah, probably want to eat all the things because your inhibitions are lowered and you're like, oh, like I now, because I'm drinking, I'm going to have a little bit of this and now I already had some, now I'm going to eat a ton of it. And that's where you can find yourself really not feeling good, really setting yourself back in your health and fitness goals, just really feeling not your best. Like it's normal and okay to have these times here and there where we have a little bit of, have some drinks and we eat a little bit extra. We don't feel our best. Like that's a normal fact of life. We do that too. But if you are regularly trying to counteract that by restricting, by jumping into these extreme diets, you're just going to make that worse. You're just going to continue down that cycle. So just wanted to throw that out there too. Food rules are going to make the intuitive drinking and the intuitive eating much worse.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope this was helpful for you guys. If it was, share it with a friend, post it on social media, share it on your story, spread it with other people and let them know about how to drink intuitively and help them out. But thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week.
Bye, you guys.